Please welcome Ayo Johnson.
Thank you. I'm going to share a poem with you that when I first read it, it blew my mind because of the simple way it redefined the word resilience. Resilience is silent and deep, like roots. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't explode outward. It doesn't fall, and it doesn't break. It simply always is, and you are. That was written by Victoria Erickson. During this talk, you're going to hear a lot about muscle, about training, about diet, about your thoughts, and the importance of your attention. I was 11 years old when I was sent to school in England. I was sent to boarding school. When I arrived, I very quickly realized I was not a fast runner. I couldn't run fast. The black kids in my school were the fastest runners, and they called me an embarrassment. They said, white kids are running faster than you. You're an embarrassment. So I labeled myself as a failure. I tried many different sports. I couldn't do anything. But I did see a documentary about it's called Pumping Iron with Arnold Schwarzenegger. And I saw bodybuilders, and I said, that's what I can do. So every night I started doing 100 push-ups in the morning. By the age of 16, I was able to get into the school gym. The first thing I wanted to do was to find out if I could enter a competition. I entered the South of England Bodybuilding Championships under 18, and I came second. I entered numerous competitions after that. I won different trophies, but by the mid-1990s, I had built a fortress of muscle around a very insecure person. You see, I had programmed my body to adapt to the stress of training, to recover through a consistent diet, and then to bounce back stronger for the next workout. But I had left my mind untrained. I want you to take a picture of this next slide. Resilience is not what happens after life hits you. It's what you train for before anything happens. I want you to start thinking of resilience as a muscle. Just as regular training will strengthen that muscle, so will a consistent diet. When I grew at my fastest rate, I trained 1 hour 3 times a week. But I ate 5 meals a day. That's 35 meals a week compared to just 3 hours of training. Muscle is built on diet. Most people have labeled themselves as weak, but they're not weak. They've been conditioned to react, which means they've been unconsciously training their reactivity muscle. But there is good news. Would you like to know what the good news is?
Yes.
Anything trained can be retrained. How? By training your attention. In the mid-1990s, the average attention span was 15 seconds. Now it's 8 seconds. By 2036, in 10 years' time, it's going to be 6 seconds. Even Netflix have changed the way they write screenplays because they know that people are scrolling through their phones whilst watching. We live in an attention economy. Corporations spend billions on trying to capture and monetize our attention. Because you see, when the attention is fractured, it becomes shallow. And when it's shallow, we become very, very easy to steer. So the act of reclaiming your attention is not about personal development or personal growth. It's self-defense in a very noisy world that's designed to keep you distracted. It is very difficult to change the mind of a person with laser focus. because that person will not react easily. We become emotional when we react, and it's that emotional roller coaster that weakens our resilience. So training your attention gives you back control of your inner world. Neville Goddard has a quote, which I absolutely love. He said, "Thought is the coin of heaven." I love that quote, because if your thought is the coin of heaven, then your attention is the currency with which you pay. How many of you were told to pay attention at school? What are you paying with? You're paying with your coin of heaven. So I want to ask you 2 questions. What value do you place on your coin? Your thoughts? What is the value of your currency of your attention? That attention that corporations spend billions on trying to capture and monetize. Second question, are you spending these coins of heaven, these thoughts? We get gifted 50 to 70,000 thoughts a day. Are you spending these thoughts? Or the currency of your attention? Or are you investing? Because you see, whenever we spend, whether it's energy, time, resources, when we spend, we deplete. But when we invest, we grow, don't we? Let me see a show of hands. How many of you would like professional, financial, emotional, spiritual growth? It would be fantastic, wouldn't it? It starts with placing a very high value on your coin of heaven and the currency of your attention. From the moment each of us wakes up to the moment that we go to sleep, all of us are having inner conversations with ourselves. The question I want to ask you is, are you always on your own side? Because I was not. And I'll tell you how I know I wasn't. If resilience is a muscle, and muscle is built on diet, then the mental diet upon which you feed that muscle has got to be a good mental diet. And I realized I was not always on my own side, but I realized this because I did a 48-hour thought observation exercise. And I challenge all of you to engage in this for the next 48 hours. For the next 48 hours, write down any negative thought that comes to your mind. Doesn't matter what it is, don't judge it. It's not about positive thinking or emotional perfectionism. This is about conscious thinking. Now, I'll tell you what happened when I did it. Over some months, every 48 hours, I write down negative thoughts that came to my mind. And what I realized was a pattern of old thoughts. And they were coming back from 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years ago, back from when I was 11. And I was going back to those thoughts till they became, focusing on those negative thoughts until they became an emotion. And those emotions became moods, because I was going back wishing I had defended myself better, wishing I had said this better, wishing I had stood up for myself, playing back old problems and rehearsing. If that person says this to me again, if I meet somebody who says this to me, I will say this. And I was arguing with myself. Can you believe that? Toxic junk food. It was toxic junk food. So the training that I will share with you is a thought-by-thought training. When a negative thought comes to your mind, as it does with all of us, the training, the resilience training, is to pause. Pause and observe this thought. And when you pause, you immediately weaken your reactivity muscle. And when you pause, you ask, is this an old habitual way of thinking that is my old identity? Or could it be valuable feedback? Because negative thoughts can be valuable feedback. When you do this again and again, you strengthen your awareness muscle, awareness as to how your mind works, and then you also strengthen your ability to respond to a negative thought. I call that your responsibility muscle. You become more responsible for what's going on in your mind. This is conscious thinking so that your thoughts don't use you. Because, friends, the mind is a wonderful servant, but it is a terrible, terrible master. You see, resilient people, they still experience pain, anger, sadness, sorrow, grief, and yet they can still function. How? How? How can they function? You know how? They don't engage in long, extended emotional reactions to whatever it was that life once threw at them. Yes, they respond. Yes, they react because they're human. But then, like I did in my training, they adapt. They recover through a conscious mental diet, and then they bounce back stronger, silently. If you will engage in this form of thought-by-thought training, the gift that you will give yourself is a more balanced, centered, resilient mind, a mind that can still be blown from side to side by the events of life. A mind that will still be affected, but it'll know when it's happening, why it's happening, and then it'll be able to bring itself back to a state of well-being because it's been trained. And that's what resilience is. It is silent and deep like roots. It does not announce itself. It doesn't explode outward. It does not fall, and it does not break. It simply always is, and you are. I will leave you with a saying from the Special Forces. They have a saying that when they are faced with a tough challenge in battle, they don't need to rise to the occasion. They sink to the level of their training. My question to you is, how will you train from now on? Thank you. Thank you.